We are here for our final session for the day, and the dialogue would have been incomplete without this session. India is transforming itself, and startups are the force behind this transformation. So now we have an amazing delegation of startup founders from India. So first, I would like to invite Ms. Shweta Kohli. Ms. Shweta is the founder and CEO of Startup Policy Forum, and she does a great job in bringing all the startups together and in really bringing all of this together and culminating all the startups so that startups can act as a force in India's policy. So please welcome Ms. Shweta. Next, I would like to call Mr. Bhavik. Bhavik is the co-founder of BharatPay and now the CEO of OTP Less. So it's amazing to have him here. Next, I would like to call Ms. Samriddhi Shoor, the CEO of Aegeon. It's great to have Samriddhi with us. Next, I would like to call Mr. Satish Narayan, the CEO of SQ1 Security. Sir, it's great that you are here. I'm sure we will all have the startup perspective in India, how amazing it is to do business in India, while at the same time, too challenging. Thank you for coming here, and Ms. Shweta, over to you.
Right. Thank you, everyone. I know this is the last session, so we'll try to keep it both short as well as engaging. But it's a real honor and privilege for Startup Policy Forum and for the founders here from India to be here for Cambridge India Business Dialogue to talk about some of the exciting stuff that is happening back home in India as far as the startup ecosystem is concerned. So today's topic, Founders at the Frontier, India's New Tech Order. And I think it couldn't be even more befitting to have three founders from very different fields, different sectors to talk to you about all the innovation that you're seeing back home in India. As you know, India has the third largest startup ecosystem in the world, but more than numbers, I think it's the dynamism of the startup ecosystem in India that we would like to bring out today. So a quick word on Startup Policy Forum before I get on to the panel. We are a 16-month-old institution. Our main aim is to bring founders and decision makers together. We convene several sessions like Startup Baatcheet, Startup Baitak, to really bridge that gap between what we call corridors of power and corridors of innovation. So we're a young institution. We ourselves are a startup that's serving startups. And today we're very proud that three of our members are here on this panel. Let me start by inviting Bhavik Koladiya, who I've known for a very long time now, and who has truly pioneered fintech innovation in India in a way that is transformational. He's a serial entrepreneur. First, BharatPay, that we all know has made waves in the payments ecosystem. But something that he's doing now is true fintech innovation, because how many of you know the term OTP? Okay, everyone. How many of you think OTPs are annoying? So don't be surprised that his company is called OTP Less. And so let's ask Bhavik, why OTP less, and what is he doing to make sure we have less OTPs in our lives? So Bhavik, over to you.
Sure. Thank you very much, Shweta. So I'll start with OTP less because I think increasingly, it has become, I would say, the problem rather than a solution. So if we talk about it, why do we need an OTP, right? What's the point? So to simply, every time we interact with any application or website or anything on internet, we have to identify ourselves. It's our account, this is our bank account, this is what we want to do. And there is a big fundamental change that has happened. So we used to have username and passwords, but you cannot send a message to username. So the email came in. On the email side, actually things have advanced a lot. We can sign in with Google. It is interoperable. You can log into one website. You can carry that session to other websites as well. But when it comes around mobile number authentication, I think we've been doing the same thing for past 30 years by sending a text message to verify a mobile number. And especially countries like India, which has kind of skipped the email completely and have moved completely to WhatsApp and mobile number. It is the core identity on the internet. I mean, our bank account, Aadhaar, UPI, everything is linked together. Two problems with OTPs. So OTP actually came in to secure the accounts, right, as a two-factor mechanism. So even if your password gets stolen, every time you will receive the code to prove that you are still in possession of your device or an account. But it was a patch that has become a surface now. SMS infrastructure itself is not best suited to send out these codes, which usually takes up to a minute, and these codes expire in a minute. So I'm sure all of us, we have juggled around, between our inbox and trying to key in. User experience is pretty bad. So 20% of these transactions actually fail, and on this most important journey, which could be sign up, login, onboarding, making a payment, even getting into a cab, right? In India, you have to share an OTP now, or getting something, getting a pizza, you have to prove that it's my pizza by sharing an OTP. So that's one. Second, more importantly, it is, you will never share your password with anyone, right? If someone asks you on the call, but how many times all of us share our OTPs, right? It is so natural to share that 4-digit plain text password. And most of the frauds are leveraging this vulnerability that your password is being shared in plain text. So the only way we could fix it was starting again from first principle, that how can we reimagine how a mobile number should be authenticated. So, overall, we are in this journey as an industry that how do you prove yourself with something that you know, with something that you have, and something who you are. And now, we have the technologies, right, where every smartphone has a biometric to prove who you are. Every SIM card is now, capable enough to communicate, to the telecom network without any SMS infrastructure. So at OTP-less, our goal is to actually replace OTPs with more secure methods like biometric authentication or the SIM binding. That's what we do.
Fantastic. And Bhavik, just a quick data point on how large is India's payments ecosystem right now, and how quickly that has grown, say, since the time you've seen it over the last decade. What is the kind of explosion that we've seen in digital payments?
Oh, I think everyone knows and the numbers speak, but I would like to, put some statistics out. When I came to India in 2016, right, making a payment was still on cash. The plastic was not available. We didn't have the infrastructure where every shop owner could afford a machine, right, to process a card. It was a completely, non-digitized way of doing things. If you walk into anywhere in India, it's been years and years now, I don't carry my wallet. And there are many of us, we don't have to worry about carrying a cash or a card with us. As long as you have a mobile phone, even, at a Pani Puri wala, you can now, buy things. Statistically, UPI has captured almost 95% of the digital transactions happening in just the course of past decade, which is, I would say, revolutionary, right? And there are certain things as a country that we have done. I think the most important part is very unique approach of building digital public infrastructure. I'm sure you have heard about it many, many times, but I cannot stress enough how important it was to build something, and that is the core infrastructure. And we are in the middle of the phase where that infrastructure is being used to build on top of it. So there are multiple different things are happening, like backend protocol, there is ONDC, then the Aadhaar is evolving itself. So yes, digital payments, I think we are the leaders, and we are proud to say that.
Absolutely. I think I'm going to bring in Satish here before I move on to Samriddhi. Satish, payments have exploded, but as Bhavik was telling us, so have frauds.
Absolutely.
And that's where cybersecurity comes in.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important that you give a sense of how important that has become, especially in today's times of geopolitical risk, in times of increasing dependence on technology, and how are you trying to solve some of those pain points?
Yeah. So obviously, as Bhavik was pointing out, the number of transactions have increased. So obviously, from a government perspective or from a B2C perspective, the cyber crimes have, and criminals, cyber criminals have become more innovative in trying to take advantage of that. So obviously, cybersecurity becomes a very crucial aspect to it. So solutions such as ours, like our company, though we don't get into the cyber crime part of it, but we involve ourselves more on the B2B side of it, where it's more at the enterprise level. It's a very critical component, and people have to be cognizant of that particular aspect as well, and how they safeguard themselves from any kind of breaches which happen. And obviously, the government has brought in a lot of regulations, especially with regard to the fintech industry. RBI, SEBI, and so many other agencies who are working closely. They've brought in so many policy regulations which are more cyber oriented. So it's high time that companies will have to evolve themselves, try and align themselves with those regulatory and compliance aspects of it. That's where companies like ours are pitching in on the solution side, trying to give them a sort of a leveling platform where they can take advantage of that.
Super. And if you thought that India is all about, fintech or the traditional sectors, well, you're not aware of what's happening in the deep tech space in India. And if you thought deep tech is all about, researchers or double PhDs sitting in labs, then you probably haven't heard Samriddhi. So I think what's fascinating for us at Startup Policy Forum is to come across very young, ambitious founders who are truly moving the needle when it comes to deep tech, when it comes to frontier technology across multiple deep tech sectors. And we think that after fintech and cybersecurity and areas like these have been the crown jewel of India's startup ecosystem, we're now going to see real cutting-edge research and newer forms of companies that are going to come through. So Samriddhi, tell us all about what you're doing and how you're truly transforming a space that erstwhile would have been thought impossible to do.
First of all, thank you so much, Shweta, for all those kind words. So what I'm doing exactly, I think it would be easier to understand if, how many of you have watched Marvel movies? Like, how many of you know about vibranium? What was vibranium? And how many of you have seen that Iron Man movie where he was trying to replace palladium with something else? Do you remember that? That's exactly what we are doing. We're trying to replace some of the rare earth material and also trying to make new superalloy compositions for that kind of industry that you saw in Iron movies or in Marvel movies in general. That's the easiest way to understand, because other than that, it's all jargon. And one of the most important things, and primarily some of the most interesting areas that I'm working in, is probably nuclear now. That would be small modular reactors that are coming up. And I think every country as of now is trying to work their way up to transition towards a cleaner energy source. And one of the biggest bet as of now is on the nuclear. I think the last COP28 that we had, which was I think in Abu Dhabi or Dubai, I don't remember exactly, but the main aim for Europe was to transition to green energy by 2030, and the main medium for that was going to be nuclear and not hydrogen or solar or wind or whatever was earlier planned. So that's exactly where we come in, and that's exactly why we are here. One of the areas where we find an overlap, and I think those are the primary areas for us, that's aerospace and space. So aerospace, we're already working heavily with the government in the defense side, which is actually a good thing for us because right now the world is in a very chaotic mode, both in terms of the volatility between the nations and also in terms of supply chains. I mean, it couldn't be, for us, it couldn't have been better. I'm so sorry for saying this, but from a business perspective, we are very well placed. And that has also exposed us to a lot of different markets, a lot of different governments, because we primarily work with the government and the PSUs as of now. And the sectors that we're working, I think, they are predominantly under government agencies itself. And I'll tell you why is it important to innovate on the new materials and why what we're doing is important for a civilization in general. I'll give you an example. So the amount of copper that has been mined, I think everybody knows about copper. The amount of copper that has been mined in the last 10,000 years. We have to mine the exact same amount of copper in the next 18 years to sustain the demand that have been currently generated already. I mean, what has already been done, the electrification, the grids, all of that, just to maintain that, we have to mine approximately 10,000 years worth of copper. Now, moving on to new demand that is coming up, new electrification with the EVs and the data centers and all of that, the interconnects, the semiconductors, all of that would require much higher amount of copper. So this is not a climate problem. This is not exactly a technology problem either. This is a physics meet civilization problem. So as a civilization, we have come to a bottleneck where what we currently have no longer serves a purpose. And even if it does, it may not sustain. And it's a very interesting time to be present because we have never accelerated in science in a much more faster manner that we are doing right now. I mean, if you imagine all the discoveries that have been made till now is in the last 200 years. And all the new kind of innovations that are happening we're going to space, we're thinking about colonizing Mars, all of that is last 10 years. And interestingly enough, we have never been more fragmented as well. I mean, instead of being more globalized, we are becoming deglobalized and we are sort of getting more isolated.
So Samriddhi, if we move forward on that, and maybe I'll come back to you, but I'll ask Bhavik and Satish that question first, which is, when we talk about founders at the frontier in India's new tech order, what is the one thing that needs to change? What's that one policy wish list that you have from the government? And I would maybe flip the question and say, if you were today Prime Minister Modi, or if today you were Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, and you had the option to change that one policy, you had one day, and actually any of the three of you can go first, because I know that's a bit of a surprise question here, so I'm going to let you think, but whoever has the answer, go first. What's the one thing that you think will be game-changing, that is going to really, truly help transform, and you as a founder would want India changing?
I don't want to sound cheeky, but I wouldn't change anything, honestly, Shweta.
Wow, I like that. Okay.
I can't imagine 10 years back, starting a company in India, getting funded, going to the market, and having a large access to the market. It just was not possible at all. I know we have a lot of noise, and we are still building, right? So there are a lot of inefficiencies as well. But literally, I wouldn't change anything just to stay course.
Wow.
I think we are on this journey, not even halfway. Rather than changing things, I think we just have to keep pushing forward. All the policies that we have, and it's a mess ecosystem, right? I totally get it as an entrepreneur. There's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of bureaucratic process. But at the same time, there is this core intention of the government and everyone around it, right? While it's a tough job, right? Like keeping the consumer interest in mind, making sure that the regulators are satisfied, and things are changing so fast. I mean, with this new wave of AI starting, it's just super hard. So, but I wouldn't change a single thing.
We love members like Bhavik who have no demands from the government. The government would love founders like him who say, just stay the course, don't change anything. But actually, it's very heartening to hear that, Bhavik, because it also comes from a place where perhaps you're like, things are working. And, I think that itself is an indication of a country in progress, right? Where there is true work in progress that's going on. And it's very often easy to complain and easy to pick concerns, but it's very hard to come out and say, what, things are working. At the same time, you guys, the rest of you should perhaps have a wish list there, because yes, we always have to keep telling policymakers what they can do better. Satish, Samriddhi, any ideas?
So I partially agree with him. I mean, what we are doing is great. 10 years back, I don't think anybody would want to start a company in India. I mean, not just us. But right now, India is a great place to be, both in terms of ease of doing business and also in the kind of policies and the schemes that have come up to support founders like us. I think one thing that the government could potentially look into is being more bold in the kind of projects that they can back. So although we do push very hard in tried and tested industries, what we don't see much is government putting in a lot of funding towards moonshot projects. So even when we started working, we started with more generic or slightly cutting edge technology rather than going completely on the innovative side. So I think this is different from the US and the European ecosystem. I think we can learn a lot from them because they back projects which are 20 or 30 years ahead of time.
Right.
And that's something that we don't see a lot in India. That's just one thing.
Satish.
Yeah, my take on that would be is if I have to look at it from the India's as a country standpoint, more on the cyber defense, protecting the critical infrastructure or anything like an Operation Sindoor or any of those kind of things. I think the government will have to definitely, train a lot of people. We have a fantastic, human resource. A lot of, kids are coming out of the college, getting themselves trained up on these STEM courses. So I think the government will have to do a push, maybe somewhat similar to, I wouldn't say exactly similar to China, but somewhat similar to China, where they built a sort of a cyber army or a cyber warrior kind of a thing, more from a defense perspective, in some cases even an offensive kind of a thing as well. This is simply because, we need to, since the economy is growing, so you have information warfare happening, that can, simply, bring down the economy. So if this momentum has to continue, I think government will have to definitely bring in certain aspects to it, which can be a collaborative effort in terms of with the academia, with the industry as well. So that is something that, from a general perspective, I would, ask the government to do.
Super. And as we wrap up the session, I do want to touch upon the UK-India relationship because we're sitting here in Cambridge. We're at the Cambridge-India Business Dialogue. Our delegation has spent last 4 days meeting various stakeholders in London. We had a session earlier with AI Minister Satish Narayan just before he came here. We spent time at the London Stock Exchange. We spent time at the Indian High Commission. We've been speaking with AI founders, including Brahma AI, Graphcore, and a series of other meetings where we're trying to get a sense of the renewed ties between India and UK, especially in the backdrop of the recent FTA that has been signed between the two countries. But more than that, every Indian seems to have ties with the UK, whether it is family, friends, business operations. Bhavik, you've lived here for a while. You already have customers here. You already are operating in this market in some form or fashion, Samriddhi. So share with us what your thoughts and vision is about the UK-India relationship. Again, anyone can go first.
Sure. I look at these two countries as I think we have historical ties and we've been culturally very close, right? I mean, there are ways of doing things which are very similar between UK ecosystem and India ecosystem. Somehow it has felt like, between these two ecosystems, someone foreign has come in and, have kind of hijacked. So we have now deeper ties with the US, especially in the startup ecosystem, right? Between founders and venture capital funds and, different partnerships. But when it comes to UK, there's a lot I think we can do to deepen, like things like this, right? Starting to, right? Like coming to UK founders coming to India, trying to get to know each other, all the funds. There should be an active push. I think there could be a great synergy for us to build this, I would say, UK-India bridge that does not exist today, or it is somewhere in the making.
Yeah.
So that will be really great. There is a lot of things that we can learn from each other, from both ecosystem, and that sharing of knowledge is super important. Building those connections even deeper, right? I mean, I look at Cambridge and I look at like half of the, people from India are studying here. So there is a great tie, but I think when it comes to startups, there is still something, it feels like it's broken.
So Bhavik, just share between your ventures, how much capital would you have raised? And it's a point you've been making consistently in every meeting that, Indian startup ecosystem is seeing a lot of capital coming from the US, but UK needs to step up in terms of making investments in India's startup ecosystem. Share with us how much capital you've raised till now, and you're saying that there's a disproportionate share of the US. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So, I mean, we are in financial services, right? We ended up raising close to $800 million. Not a single pound has come from UK. Especially when we are building, I mean, the investors that we have zero background how financial services work in India. Vis-a-vis in UK, it's the same thing, like our central bank and Indian central bank are, running hands in hands, right? Like we exactly know how both regulator works. But still, I've never raised a single pound from UK. And it's not that we haven't tried. Just mapping out the investor in UK is also difficult. I mean, I met, when Shweta arranged, I've been coming to UK for a while now. But this is the first time I got to, meet a few VCs. So yes, that corridor, I think, needs to be open. It is there. I think it's just we need to open the gates.
Super. Samriddhi.
Well, I have been working in the UK's ecosystem for a while now. We're working very closely with the UK Space Agency and the European Space Agency. We have our office in Leicester Space Park. We're actually collaborating with Cranfield as well. So on the research side of things, I think the collaboration between the two countries are quite strong. We do have shared infrastructure. We do have tie-ups for that in place. When it comes to venture capital, not so much. I think one of the primary reasons for that is not a lot of GPs are from Indian origin, something that we see a lot back in the US. I mean, a lot of the GPs are actually of Indian descent. So you will definitely have an affinity towards investing in India. You'll know how the culture works. Whereas when we talk to the VCs here, one of the biggest concerns I would say that they have, because we have spoken to them, it's about navigating the ecosystem back, the legal regulations back in India. So I think they do not have much awareness about how exactly the ecosystem works in India, and that's one of the primary reasons for them not to invest in it, because it's actually quite easy.
I'm going to do a shameless plug for Startup Policy Forum and New Economy Collective, which is our second platform, to say that this is why we exist, to give comfort to foreign investors that yes, India seems chaotic, it seems complex, but there is some method to the madness, and we're here to help navigate, because once you get it right in India, then it is actually a fascinating market to build and expand and also invest in startups. Satish, you get the last word.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a few clients here, though we have not explored the UK market in a big way. Almost 80% of our clients are US-based clients. So one of the reasons for us to be here, along with Startup Policy Forum, is to kind of explore the market and maybe use this as a conduit to get into the European market as well. Though there's a lot of regulatory, like GDPR has come in, a bit early. But still, we haven't really, taken advantage of that. Of course, there are a lot of regulatory, DORA, NIS, to a few other, regulatory, more so on the security side. So those compliance standards are also come into place. So primarily, we're looking at using this, maybe UK as a sort of a springboard to go into the European market, and vice versa as well, like, companies which are looking at, trying to invest on the cybersecurity space as such in India. It's an excellent place where you can get the right kind of people, the right kind of ecosystem is available. Obviously, the companies over here can take advantage of that more, not so more of a back office kind of a thing. You can even get into an R&D kind of an environment where, products, high-tech products, especially on the cyberspace, can be developed, from India. So we do have that expertise. So it can be definitely a sort of a two-way kind of, extremely good, a collaboration.
So I'm sorry,
Sure.
I want to add one
Please.
point on this. So after asking this question to so many people in the UK, I think I kind of, got an answer, and which made the most sense. Everything else was solvable. But one thing I would like to highlight is that what I feel is that UK venture capital industry itself is not deep enough yet.
Yeah.
UK being the deepest pools of capital, this is very surprising and a bit shocking, to be honest. But I would really start there, right? Like supporting UK startups and giving them more, capital, so they start more companies, so they can think bigger, they can scale, and they can create maybe 100 companies like Revolut and Wise and other things to prove that. I think if that first leg happens, I think naturally once opportunities will run out of here, we would be, I think, the recipient of the
Right.
capital.
UK is less VC and more investment banking or private equity rather than venture capital. So yes.
All right, we do hope that should change sooner rather than later, and we do think that we need a more active collaboration between the two innovation ecosystems, if we even not call it just startup ecosystem, because it's a given. You just heard UK's AI minister, he's Indian origin. Just the historical ties, just the cultural ties are so strong that we do think there will be a lot more action between the two economies. And with the new FTA in place, we do think that the innovation corridor will also see renewed ties. And we, at least at the Startup Policy Forum and the New Economy Collective, are very excited to keep building on this partnership. But many congratulations to the Cambridge India Business Dialogue for putting together this excellent day for all of us. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bhavik, Satish, and Samriddhi, thank you. And Shweta, thank you for steering that conversation with such depth and peace. Being more bold, need for a government push, at the same time steering the course are the key takeaways that India should take to build the Indian growth history. Thank you for your time, your honesty, and most of all, the inspiration you have given to every student in this room who is quietly wondering whether to take that leap. Please join me in thanking our panel one more time, and I would like Suyash to come and facilitate our guest.